as a brief outline, be talking about 3 different mountain views at our location up in Lowell that I very much enjoy and that roughly map out to the past, present, and future for me. And then also my experience fasting for my first 7-day retreat there. Before I get into it, I'd love to do a quick exercise in which we fake laugh until we start actually laughing. And as you start actually laughing, you could raise your hand. That'd be splendid. So, I shall start. Just did an exercise where we did some fake laughing until we started to actually laugh. Thank you so much. So, up at our location in Lowell, every night as I fall asleep, I have a beautiful view of Mount Norris. And one of the first weekends that I was a resident at CML, decided to climb Mount Norris, summit the peak. And it was with 2 of the interns that were there at the time, Peter and Lindita. So, set off, and about 5 or 6 minutes into the hike, ran into a black bear, which was interesting. I had never encountered one in the wild before, so initially I wondered, I wonder what kind of dog that is. Started running away from us. And I realized it was a black bear. So we slightly altered course, but nevertheless, toward the mountain peak. And so during that hike, there was no set path to travel. We kind of forged through on our own. And I sometimes think of how we could have shaved about an hour off of the hike by having any idea where we were going. Also, probably would have been a good idea to bring, more water or food or a compass or bug spray or mosquito net or really any of the basic essentials for our outdoor hiking. Nevertheless, there we were on our way. And as we were not on any set path, we encountered some very rough terrain. And after a difficult aspect of the climb and being quite sweaty, the 2 people I was with probably wisely decided to turn back, as it was starting to get somewhat late on the hike. But I decided to continue on to the peak of Mount Norris. And when I think of this in the past, people remember different events, or the same event differently. Pretty understandable phenomenon. And so at our location in Lowell, 3 of the residents saw a bull moose recently. But as I was hiking, all I saw was about 500 pounds of moose droppings. And I started to get really frustrated during this hike, sweating a lot, running into patches of thorns, just continuing to climb, and just over and over in my head, you know, once I reach the peak, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to have such incredible views, and perhaps a little beyond that, everything in the world will be right, and I'll feel amazing and perfect. And so, continued on through this pretty rough terrain, kept sweating, kept getting more frustrated at the slow progress that I was making. But at a certain point, as the air started to get cooler, as the foliage turned into alpines and whatnot, the first cool breeze I felt after having been so sweaty was just so refreshing that something snapped, and I just decided to, you know, enjoy the hike. I come from Illinois, land of the endless corn and soybean fields, so any sort of hike was new, exciting, fun, that sort of thing, and I appreciated it from then on. And when I got to the peak, took a few photos and whatnot, and when I look at them, the photos are beautiful, in my humble opinion, but they don't really fully capture how great that view was. And for me personally, when I think about past events like that, it's approximately like that, where any sort of, just for example, a photo doesn't tell the entire story. When I was actually there in the moment, it was so much more vivid, more rich, more everything. And so that is southwest of our location in Lowell, I believe, and southeast, approximately equidistant, is Hadley Mountain. And so that makes me think of the future, because in the future I plan on hiking that. Of course, I have no idea the path I'll take. I have no idea who I'll be hiking it with, or if I will be hiking it with anyone else. But I often catch myself every time I see it getting caught into my thoughts about the future, of how the hike will go, that sort of thing. And when I think about that past hike to Mount Norris, I feel a little bit of anxiety, like, oh, I could have done this better to save time on the hike, could have done this better to be better prepared. But on the front porch of CML is a view that is much more expansive and beautiful. You can see Jay Peak, some mountains in Canada, well, Tremblant. Big J, various other mountains, is extremely beautiful view of many Appalachian peaks. And whenever I'm sitting on that porch or walking throughout our campus and viewing it, it really sort of grounds me into that moment. Because I think, you know, these mountains started developing 400 million years ago. Humans are 200 to 300,000 years old, according to anthropologists. And I've lived about 8,500 days or so. But every single day I wake up and I get this incredible view that circumstances in my life had to go right, all these circumstances in my life had to go wrong for me to have this beautiful view of these mountains every single morning, every single evening. And I sit there right in the front of the location, and I'm there. When I'm there, I'm there. And, you know, I just feel sort of deep sense of gratitude. There's beautiful furniture. It's great to sit on. I'm often with great people there, and it's quite nice, and I recommend it if you get the chance to view that view. And so, to summarize those 3 mountain views, when I'm not focused on the past hike of Mount Norris, the future hike of Hadley Mountain, and can be every day in that moment at the beautiful view in front of me, it feels just so much better, so much better. And the first 7-day retreat I experienced at CML, I decided to do a 7-day water fast during it. No food, 7 days. And it was roughly based on something called Tangario, which I believe comes from Zen, where a practitioner would sit outside of a monastery or a temple for an extended period of time before being let in and allowed to practice. So they showed their level of commitment, their level of intention to doing that. And partially in honor of that tradition, I wanted to show to the fellow residents, the teacher, and to myself how deeply my commitment, how deep my commitment was to that. And so I made that commitment and was talking it over with our head teacher, Soryu, and he asked, "Is that a good idea?" Thought about it for about a second. So 168 hours, sit still in meditation, don't eat. Sounds simple. Yeah, it's a great idea. Why not? And so really just locked in that commitment in that moment. And the very next meal period, one of the residents hand baked what appeared to be and what smelled like a very, very delicious cake for our friend Steven, who works very hard for our organization. And so immediately my mind started generating all of these excuses for why I should not honor the commitment. Like the retreat technically starts tomorrow. Like, we almost never have cake here. You need to enjoy this in part of the celebration. You're helping the celebration by having this delicious cake. It'd be rude to the baker if you didn't have that cake. It's very rude to reject food. And so that was the first thing that came up during the fasting period. The first hurdle I kind of had to jump over. And so a little bit about our retreats. We get up quite early. The first scheduled event starts at 4:40 a.m. And during our retreats, we sit, I want to say, between 8 and 10 hours a day. And so during those periods, I would be doing nothing other than facing my own mind and thoughts and what came up in that moment. And especially the first few days, the hunger pains that would come up, and I was experimenting with my posture, so the body pains that would come up. And so regarding posture, I just kept thinking, during these long sitting periods, if I just feel pain in my knee, if I just shift this 2 inches to the right, then it would be all good. Everything would be right in the world. Everything would be perfect. It would solve my problems. And I would move to the right, and then it would just set something else off. And I'd be at that same exact problem. If I just scratch this itch on my chin, then it would be perfectly well off. And the same thing kind of came up with the hunger that I would feel. If I just, my mind would show me, I had very vivid visualizations of all of my favorite foods, and just during these long periods, just one by one, like, hey, remember this delicious food? Yes. Hey, remember this delicious food? Yeah. Just on and on. And I used to work at this restaurant before coming here. And I very vividly during one or a couple periods plotted out, the perfect meal where, next time I'm home, I'll have this perfect meal and I'll feel so good and so awesome. Everything will be okay. Everything will be right in the world. Everything will be perfect. All I have to do is start out with some saganaki, some bread and cheese, 2 fluid ounces of brandy, and then lit and put on the fire so it gets a nice caramelized crust. And then after that appetizer, maybe cleanse the palate with some San Pellegrino, a little bit of lemon, and then a beautiful 22-ounce finely marbled prime rib, side of hash browns, extra crispy, lightly salted, extra vegetables, finishing with some New York cheesecake, perhaps drizzled with caramel, and because I will deserve that meal. I'll deserve it, and I'll eat it, and everything will be good, everything will be right, everything will be perfect. And I just kept plotting out these elaborate scenarios. Of how once I do that thing, once I move, once I eat that thing, all my problems will go away, everything will be right. And I mean, even in that moment, I knew it wasn't true to a certain extent. I was reminded of my past gluttonous acts. So one day, I once ate 2 pounds of bacon in one day. Yeah. And didn't solve all of my problems, turns out. There's still problems in the world. Are you familiar with the sandwich chain Jimmy John's? I used to work there, and they have a sandwich called the Gargantuan. It's an 8-inch sandwich, about a pound, maybe more of meat on it. I once ate 2 of those in one sitting, so the equivalent of one 16-ounce sandwich. And just, thinking I'd be happy once I'm full after eating that. I actually went swimming after doing that. Turns out I still had to face my problems. Still not all was right in the world. And there's this quote from the founder of Jimmy John's, which is, the gap between more and enough never closes. The gap between more and enough never closes. If you're constantly focused on more, if I just, 1 pound of bacon isn't enough, another pound, my problems will be solved. Once you're in that mindset, in my experience, it kind of doesn't matter. I would eat ridiculous amounts of food and still not be satisfied in that way. And so during the first few days of this retreat is when the hunger pains were super strong. And if anyone's interested in fasting in general, either the benefits or the risks, I recommend checking out the work of Dr. Jason Fung, who is a Toronto-based nephrologist. Just a little bit of a disclaimer there. But so during the few first days of this retreat, really difficult for me, going from eating plenty of food to just no input in that way. And I'm reminded of another quote, which is, if we cannot be happy in spite of our difficulties, what good is our practice? And so as I said, we get up quite early. The first thing we do in the morning is chant. Wakes us up, gets us out of our heads, into our bodies, really ready for the day. And as another resident said during that retreat, I just looked like I had a very heavy soul. I was feeling a lot of fatigue and just these hunger pains and whatnot. And so during this chanting, there's one portion where we start slowly and quietly ramp up to intensity. And I would just be so tired in the morning and not wanting to increase the intensity or the volume or just really be with that chant at all. And I would look around the fellow residents and just see them giving their all into this exercise, into this chant. And that was one of the many ways that the residents during that, I would look around and kind of gather strength from, not food, but just this community, these people really throwing themselves into this practice. And that happened many times, sitting for long periods, aching back and whatnot, and looking around and seeing basically these statue-like residents sitting still for such long periods, if they can have their good posture, I should emulate that as well. Try to not move, even if I really want to. And what helped a little bit is this practice called the 5-minute journal. So it's this journal that I would write in every morning, every evening. I would write 3 things I'm grateful for in the morning, 3 things, what would make today great, 3 examples of those. And in the same way, if you buy a new car, a new vehicle, a certain make and model, you start to see that make and model everywhere. It had that same sort of effect where once I had that strong practice of that sort of gratitude everywhere I looked, there would be reinforcement of that. But it was still quite difficult during that period. And so another aspect of our retreats is we have one-on-one meditation interviews with the head teacher. And so I remember one interview, middle of the week or so, with Soryu, where he was saying, you're not getting nourishment from food, you need to get nourishment somehow. Whatever is in that moment, you need to find. Everything is located in that moment. In that moment, everything is there. And so what I began to take nourishment in, amongst other things, is that beautiful mountain view. There's many troubles in the world. Here's this beautiful, peaceful place to train, and all these loving, dedicated people to train with. And also, I was, in that moment, not a slave to sensory desire. I wanted so badly to eat, just note that continuance, that perseverance in that way. I would be doing it just by not eating, but when I started to actually recognize that, it would give a deep strength and nourishment in that way when I began to recognize that and consider it in that way. A little bit about fasting. Well, also, throughout the whole week, I wound up losing 20 pounds, and I would be weighing myself every morning. So it was a little, nice little bit of fat loss. People average about half a pound of fat loss per day, and then more than that total just from water weight, glycogen in the muscles and whatnot. And so I began to recognize all these other factors that I was able to take strength from in that way. And a process that occurs during fasting, or a process that ramps up, is called autophagy. Your cells recycle old and damaged parts. and sewing away your cells, like these broken parts and aspects don't serve me anymore, out with them. And I started to consider my meditation practice in that same way. I'll be faced with these thought patterns, these habit patterns, and just through the stillness and being able to observe them, these harmful thought patterns and behavioral patterns don't serve me anymore, out with them. And so it was powerful to recognize that that physiological aspect was occurring, and then that mental aspect. And also, so we have 2 meal periods during the day. I believe the term for our meals is large and abundant. 2 seems like not much. And so people walk through the line where the food is and serve themselves with food. And I had the option to sit in the meditation hall during this week, during this retreat, but wanted to ramp up the practice. I'm already trying to show my dedication by fasting. I might as well come to the meal periods and be directly faced with, this food's right here. I could eat it if I wanted to. I feel the desire, the great sense, the smells of these foods. And I'll be walking through the line, the table of the foods, and pick up, whether it's soup or rice, and bring it right to the edge of my bowl and go, I could do it. It's right there, but I choose not to. And draw some more strength in through that way. Be seated at the table surrounded by people with all the food, just everyone eating joyously. You just sit there like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And just moment, kind of every moment was an increased amount of accomplishments. Now, all that being said, I still did have the fantasies about the food. In Lowell, 4 miles north of our location, there's this place called Cajun Snack Bar, as well as in-country restaurants. It was like, as soon as this retreat is over, I'm marching up there. I'm going to get some delicious food. It's going to be right with the world. It's going to be right with me. But just day by day, moment by moment, kept going with it, kept something I started to do in my practice is think of a list of all the things I am grateful for, as opposed to just, I don't have food, I do have this, list all the things I'm grateful for, and cultivate that sense of gratitude. And it helped get a sort of happiness and strength regardless of the circumstance that was occurring at that time. And I remember when the retreat ended, the first meal I did have was granola, almond butter, fruit, almond milk, maple syrup, as one does in Northeast England and in Vermont. I remember I just, I didn't eat the entire week. I accomplished my goal. I deserve this. I deserve this. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to feel so good. And I had this giant bowl of food in front of me. And I remember the first couple of bites were so overwhelming to my senses. The flavors were so delicious and vivid and incredible. And my body, I started to feel the satisfaction, the physiological satisfaction of having that food. And then there was that feeling, but still more broad than that, was kind of a large bit of disappointment. Like, oh, I'm still the exact same person despite having grown. Huh. So nothing changed really in that, in terms of my mind state, but I was able to cultivate a mind state which was deeply changing, satisfying, helpful. And so I would like to lead into the practice that I did during that period, the cultivation of gratitude. Find a position that is comfortable for you. Straighten the spine. And try to settle into a position that allows you to relax, as well as maintain energy and focus. Just take a couple of deep breaths here. While maintaining the position you are in, direct your awareness and your attention to the left side of this room. Now direct your awareness to the right side of this room. Direct your awareness to the soles of your feet, of your toes. And now simply feel your hands. So we're able to focus our awareness in these ways. And I would like you to now think of something you are deeply, truly grateful for. If there is a body sensation associated with this gratitude, try to dive into that. And if it doesn't arise, it's perfectly okay. It is a beautiful Sunday evening, and we could be doing many things. So feel gratitude for this period to be able to practice in this way, in this lovely space, to be able to practice within. It is safe, welcoming, in some ways shielded from craziness of the world outside that we can get wrapped up in. I was born in the city of Chicago, and when I walk around, I notice the air quality is so distinctly worse than it is here. And so feel the gratitude for being able to be here with the lovely nature, the plants, the animals, and just the lovely amounts of organic life that is around us here. In this moment, as we practice, we are free of the violence and hunger and afflictions that affect so many of our brothers and sisters in the world. So let us feel gratitude for simple ability to be right here, right now, in this moment where nothing is left. approximately 7 or 8 trillion humans have ever existed. And yet, right here, and right now, we have a beautiful opportunity to feel something as simple as the breath, as the summer breeze, things we may not think of often, take for granted often. The very simple base pleasures of being alive right here, right now. In many ways, the ability to practice in this way is unique. We owe it to the unbroken chain of our ancestors, the unbroken chain of our life's events, both positive and negative, that have allowed us to simply be right here, right now. Outside, you hear the beautiful sounds of nature, people strolling around on a sunny day, people traveling about. You're uniquely privileged in that you're not surrounded by sounds, gunshots, violence, and killing. There are many, many people in this world So I encourage you to dive into any feelings of gratitude that arise, or any of the numberless things that we have the ability to take a moment to be grateful for. Just feel the simple, pleasurable sensation. Yeah. The beauty of this world and of this life is unimaginably vast, vivid, sheer, simple fact that we are at the center of it to peacefully witness it. It's very, very easy to lose track of that. So every single breath, to be able to remember it and cherish it. Special. moments in the bell. I encourage you to enjoy, savor, simple sip of clean water, feeling the grass between your toes, the warmth, sun on our skin, beauty, flower, the bird song, and the bell. A few minutes before you leave back. to go through a quick exercise. You're willing to indulge in. Simple will be the same tone or harmonize the same tone. So following as you wish, I can ring the bells in Thank you. I'd like to hear how that sounds, hear how that feels with you, and also think about how at any moments there touching hundreds of thousands of people in the world. So doing that. So I hope you have been able to feel gratitude for the world that is around us, the beauty of the world that is around us. But we are also the world. As many people have said, we do not come into the world, we come out of the world, from the earth, away to the ocean. And so as it is easy in some cases to love or appreciate what is around us, I would like to go through a slightly different technique in which we appreciate ourselves and build that, expand that outward. Settle into a comfortable position. The spine, stable position that is relaxed, energetic, focused. Just take a couple of deep breaths. We perceive and have awareness of the world through our own senses. We navigate the world with our own body. So I would like to develop a little bit of appreciation for ourselves. And so I like to, with each breath, repeat, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful. Each breath, May I be well. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. The same way, if we were on an airplane, let's first put on our own oxygen mask before helping others. In similar fashion, we may have to first love or appreciate ourselves before truly being able to love or appreciate what is around us. So with each breath, wish, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful. It may be helpful to visualize yourself during this, how you see yourself in the mirror, or just how any person may see you, or replace the I with your first name. So for me personally, Christopher may be well, Christopher may be happy, Christopher may be peaceful. As you walk this path and you develop humility, this can seem a little odd. But every person is deserving of these wishes, especially ourselves, from within ourselves. Often we are our own harshest critics. We say things to ourselves in our minds that we would never say to our worst enemies. So with each breath, we be well, happy, peaceful. Can help to dive into these terms word by word and think of what that means to you. Visualize what it means for you personally to be well. What it looks like for you to be happy. What it feels like for you to be peaceful. help to visualize within yourself an orb, an aura, positive, loving kindness. Maybe it has a red or a blue color. Please give these basking those well-wishing. And now we expand this to our friends, our family, to our coworkers that we enjoy. May they too be well, be happy, peaceful. Try to visualize a friend, a family member, someone close to you in your life, perhaps going through a tough time. Clearly, vividly wish them that they be well, that they be happy, that they be peaceful. Now we extend this to those who are indifferent to a stranger walking down the sidewalk, someone driving down the road next to you, all the people you've never met. May they too be well, be happy, be peaceful. Each stranger on that earth be well, happy, peaceful. Now we extend this to those that need it most, to those that would harbor ill will towards us, to those that have succumbed to trapped, greed, hatred, ignorance, perhaps even considered an enemy, perhaps they really desire. They too, well, peaceful. Those that have fallen into these hateful trappings, is a good circumstance, whether they are a violent criminal, whether they are President of the United States, maybe attempt to break this cycle, this feedback loop of hate, as we wish them to be well, to be happy, to be peaceful. May we expand this even beyond them to the innumerable bugs, rocks below our feet, birds far above us, even beyond the atmosphere of our earth. May all beings be well, be happy, be peaceful. would encourage you this week, either first thing in the morning, last thing in the evening, to perhaps write down one or a few things you feel great gratitude for, or look in the mirror and wish yourself to be well, happy, peaceful. Someone just walking down the street. See if it does not feel good to do so. Now take any questions, comments, concerns, anecdotes. Yes.
Well, yeah, really great sit for me. I was really surprised. Ready to start off with a fake laugh thing. I thought this is going to work, and the next thing I know, I'm split my gut. And then I kind of set the tone for everything. For some reason, it really needed this. I really liked the theme, everything. I like the theme about more is never enough. That we live in a society where it's like that. We're basically bred to be consumers, and a little addict running around consuming. More is never enough, and I know for myself, I just need to be okay with it. But it's enough, right? Now it's enough. And I think that's what we're getting at. It's just enough just to be. You don't have to go someplace. You don't have to. I'm not going to be okay if I get a degree or a car or whatever, things outside worlds, what I mean? Make my world right. And just having a gratitude for what's right in front of you right now is just really important. I don't know why it's been elusive my entire life. Gratitude, just being gratitude. I've always been elusive. So it's really good. Remind me of that. And then the loving yourself, because none of us have anything to give until you love yourself. And really, that's what, for me, that's what life is. Loving myself enough so that I can get back and living in the moment and being grateful for what I have. Just a really great sit for me. Thanks. Very great job. Thumbs up. Thank you. Right, Christian. Good job. I think you got something going on.
Really glad to hear that. Regarding that first part, I feel very often in our society we're quite goal-oriented. One side, this car, this promotion, this degree. It's a great American novel, or this new city. Once I get the thing, it'll be okay. And then those things happen, and there's something deeper that's still the same. It's common that people move to Hawaii and they feel so great, so awesome, smelling the great scents of the island. Then after a couple of years, just so bored of what's an everyday thing. And so the first time I encountered that second technique was from teacher Bhante Sujapa in Woodstock, Illinois. And he is a monk from Sri Lanka, where in his village, things like electricity and modern medicine were extremely scarce. And so after having come to America and seeing all the incredible things of our society, and then seeing that people aren't happy. They have all of these incredible things, and almost no one's happy, or at least visibly. And so his goal, his wish for what he does in this nation is to try to help people learn how to do that, through gratitude, love, kindness, appreciation. Which is not necessarily so easy if it's always there.
So I was outside, standing next to the sidewalk, and I found myself just doing my best to cultivate gratitude for any experience I was having, any sensory experience. And some of it went well, and then some of it was just kind of weird because, like, for instance, this truck drove super fast down the street, and I was like, how do I have gratitude for that? And I mean, it reminds me of so many challenges in my life that I know I need to go through, but I don't have gratitude for them as I'm going through them, even though I could, and I probably should, and then maybe if I was a better person or more dedicated resident of the Monastic Academy, I would. Like, it gets super complicated about it, but I mean, I guess starting with the like having gratitude for something that is maybe like challenging our view of how the world should be so that it's safe for people to be in, or something like that. Like, do you have any advice on how to have gratitude for things that aren't good?
Well, after the truck passed by, you appreciate the quiet that was newfound in that moment.
I was mainly just worried. I was worried because I saw two signs for like people to cross the street, you know, like just to the left of the meeting place. But I was, if any gratitude came out of that, I had gratitude for that person not driving down that street in front of me anymore.
That's something.
Yeah.
So I found that after doing this technique for a while, I'm sort of able to recognize the feeling I feel in my body after thinking what I'm grateful for, and almost in some ways working backwards from that. So whatever circumstance I'm in, able to sort of feel that. Then also, you know, if you have a cold or a flu, some sort of sickness, the moment you're healthy, you're back to like baseline. Like, wow, this is incredible. This level of normalcy. Yeah, gratitude for things that aren't necessarily positive or pleasurable is probably the most critical aspect of it, quite easily. But you know, only in darkness are we able to see. Only the light, only in the light are we able to see shadow.
So I just kind of did what was said about it was really beautiful, and there's just so much that I can't even respond to everything because I just love the journey through your fast is really, really profound and meaningful to me. I just wanted to expand that to the whole it's like, no, we need to put more of the fast. I don't understand the fast. It just felt like there was so much to it that you touched on.
Right.
And it was almost like there was so much in this hour period that we understanding stuff. And like I said, I feel like I really need more fast. But then I was kind of like a child that wanted to hang on to that, and then, but when we went into the gratitude piece and I didn't think I was going to like it. You know, that was my first thing. I've done this before. I know what this is loving kindness thing. I don't know what you have.
Hate love.
I hate that loving kindness stuff. And then, but it was, and then you kind of gave us permission. I felt like there was some permission in the way you presented it. I felt permission, which was really nice. And, I kind of went with each word, like I exemplified it, like I went with. So I added a word to each thing. I don't know. So this was my own. I'll take off of it when I went. Let me be. What's the first one?
Well.
Wow. Yeah, it said vibrantly well. And then I felt it more. And I said joyfully happy. And then I was like deeply and serenely peaceful. And I just kept playing with those words. And then something else popped out, and I was having a discussion with somebody the other day, and they said something. We were talking about this exact thing that you brought up about when people do things that are negative. And she was saying how you can say, let you be released from the error of the waves. But then I thought, well, that's kind of judgmental, so I switched it to, and I started with me, let me be, and then so I added this fourth part, which was, and let me be released from the errors of my ways. And then it felt easier, like that, what you were talking about, it felt easier to feel like, let this bus driver be like abundantly happy and deeply peaceful, and let him be released from any errors in his ways. It feels like I needed that or something. I don't know if that's something about me. I mean, I don't know what that says, and maybe I'd like your opinion on that, because I felt like when I had that at the end, it felt like I needed that little extra, okay, and if there is any icky stuff, like when I was doing the precedent, and I tried to get through, like,
Yeah.
and let him be released from any errors in his ways, and it just felt, yes, I can give him all his good things, knowing that he will be released from all the errors of his ways. And anyway, I guess I just want to have gratitude.
I love those scriptures you added on to those. It was powerful. I had a lot. So I feel good and happy when I see other people that feel good and happy, but it's sometimes maybe odd to just wish that upon random strangers. There's this spiritual teacher, Ram Dass, who has this, I forget what it's called, but it's like a table of devotional objects that he prays towards, sends compassion to, and he's done it for 40 years or so now, where he'll always, amongst other things, his spiritual teacher, then also a picture of the President of the United States, no matter who it is, because some of these, whoever it is, super difficult thing to do, and they're just another human, in many ways deserving of that compassion, that other. Regarding the first part with the fasting, it's, even though a very, very, humans have kind of done it for quite some time, but it's pretty extreme, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to anyone just out of the blue. Especially if you have a job or obligations and aren't just sitting still for 8 to 10 hours a day, it can manifest in your relationships with people, where your body is like, you need food right now, and so you get angry, combination. So there were times after the first couple of days when I would have, in some ways, more deep of a practice, but I don't want to say that, everyone's gonna get magical meditation powers if they just cut off their food supply. It seems very, I don't want to advocate that. A lot of people are researching that in many ways. Yeah, I think a lot of those words onto it.
So I actually do really enjoy meditation. And I, over the years, kind of come up with my own words as well. But I was going along with what your sayings were, and I like those. But I just wanted to share that I really enjoyed when you asked us to think what each of those really means to us. That took it to another place for me. And I just wanted to let you know that was really powerful for me. And that others might benefit from that side of this one.
Very much. Yeah, I find you can kind of repeat those phrases and kind of lose meaning, but when you're really focusing on the meaning, what that looks like, what that has felt like in the past, it kind of expands broadly.
And it also helped me when I was moving out beyond myself, understand what exactly I was trying to pass on to others. More specific. Thank you.
I think I heard you incorrectly, because I thought you said, please let us be released from the error of his ways.
Maybe that too. I don't know. But, yeah, I don't know.
I did want to thank you. I think yesterday's sit, for some reason, I was emotional most of the day today. I don't think there was anything specific about the sit other than the fact that I was sitting for 6 hours yesterday. I found today's sit to be a good, very neutral space to be with that and just be okay with everything. And I think perhaps you have a bigger voice.
No. Yeah, also, I've been told I have a radio voice, but also a radio face. I'm not sure if
It doesn't sound good.
So with Shinzen having that retreat yesterday, and I've said this before to some of the residents, in many ways, leading up to this, I felt like an open mic comic getting bumped by like Jerry Seinfeld or something, and then having to follow that act. But we seem to be okay. Nothing's on fire in this.
I think it's regardless of specific content of what we were doing yesterday. It's just, and it just ends up to be really intense, at least in my story. Because I don't typically sit for or walk around for 6 hours. And again, I hesitated to come today because I could go for I could. I'm like, no. I sometimes try to, or a lot of times lately, try to convince myself that really, if there's a reason why you say you don't want to do something,
Right. Yeah. valuable to notice that sort of resistance. I trained briefly at Great Boston Monastery in Oregon, and some advice I heard there was if you don't feel like meditating in the morning, you go to the meditation hall early. So same lines as that. Also, seems to be some daylight left for a bike ride. Yeah, yeah, I think you can.
I want to echo Andrew's comment. When you mentioned visualizing yourself, that was really powerful, and it also made it clear actions I should take to make that image a reality. And there's also a first sense of selfishness that I think you alluded to by my focusing on this. But then it just felt very natural and it felt more natural to have me in that state than not in that state. So, I think it was good.
I just wanted to mention one thing. Doesn't really mean anything, but a lot of individuals in the room are pretty young and may not know who Dick Gregory is. But he passed away, I think, yesterday, 85 or 86 years old. He was a comedian and a peace activist who was known for his fasting during the Vietnam War. And I think he fasted a lot. Remember Dick Gregory? He used to fast for, until he was basically had to be put on an IV so he wouldn't die. And for something he believed in. So maybe Google his name and read a little bit about that guy. Pretty interesting guy.
Yeah, I read he with most of his life either a bullet wound in his knee from a protest in 1965, I believe.
Yeah, I didn't remember that or didn't know it, but yeah. Never got it out. Or it's just a wound, yeah. It's never fun getting shot in the knee, is it?
It's difficult to be grateful for the bullet wounds. Any other questions, reports?
I have a question related to what you just said.
Sure.
So are we supposed to be grateful for negative forces? Like, should we be grateful for hate? Should we be grateful for, or should we be grateful for positive forces and counteract?
Definitely the positive ones. And I find it's only from the hate or violence do we notice the absence of it. Statistically, we're in the safest, least violent period of human history, as is often said, perhaps you've heard. But if you're on the internet watching news, we're bombarded with every instance of violence around the globe. So in many ways, we're living the most violent time in that we're able to see all of these events occurring all over the world. But the reason these things are news is because they're not normal, is because they're out of the ordinary, outrageous. So for me, it's a skillful balance. That feels like a cop out to say, but yeah.
You're kind of saying that you're grateful for the lessons that the learning that comes out. experience.
That,
Not the
definitely.
opportunity to feel
You're out in the snow all day, you walk in your house and it's warm, you can appreciate that more because you're not out in that. It's sort of the, it's only by certain things like that do notice when it's different or the absence of it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's the same. You know, what you just said, like, without having those negative things, you can't notice the positive ones. But ultimately, it's all connected.
Another point on that, I suppose, is many people we know were, you said your grandmother in the Holocaust went through such a horrifically challenging, difficult, terrible thing. And so when we recognize that we have the safety from that, the relative easiness of our life from that, it's kind of,
Yeah, it made me think of like the Buddha, the story of the Buddha. The Buddha?
oh,
The story of the Buddha where his whole life was just, he was not exposed to any of the negative. And it was in being exposed to the sickness, the old age, and going outside of what he was exposed to, that's how he became enlightened, was through seeing the negative. If I have the Buddha story correct, what I understand of it is he was kept away from that in his early life. And when he was exposed to that, and my goodness, so took it as well. It's understanding.
there's nothing else. We chatted about 10 minutes or so.
Let's actually do some quick announcements.
So before chanting, we'll be doing some quick announcements. Yeah, thank you to everyone of you for doing it. Appreciate it.
Give you the opportunity to get involved with the community first. So there's a fun two events that seem to be great. So one of them is called Bike and Glean, and it's it says Glean veggies in the Infidel with Vermont Food Bank, like them to the Darlington Food Shelf with Old Spokes Home, and help the Good Food Truck stock up on fresh veggies for their food distribution. And the Good Food Truck, it's this truck that goes around for the Chittenden Community Food Shelf. And if you buy their food, all the proceeds go to helping the Chittenden Community Food Shelf. So that is happening Tuesday from 5:15 to 8:15. And then one more is there's this talk on Saturday from 3:30 to 4:30 on white fragility. And the speaker will talk about this concept and how it is perpetuating racism, keeping that cycle going for white people. And they're inviting people to come to 3 o'clock for a new volunteer orientation at the Peace and Justice Center. So that is Peace and Justice Center Saturday. Talk starts at 8:30, orientation starts at 2.
What's the talk again?
It's called White Fragility.
Yeah. What time does it start?
The talk starts at 3:30 on Saturday. Anybody else has any events or things that you should all know about? Feel free to listen in.
I noticed that I got an email from Our Revolution, and evidently they're now having sign up board to do like 1 to 3 hour, I consider some shifts of volunteering. So brother's office. So, it's just an opportunity.
That's all. I have a few announcements in relation to our community. I checked this morning, and we do indeed only have 2 spots left for our Shinzen-Young Recon Retreat in September, which is from the 22nd to the 29th. And it's going to be amazing, I think. And any of you are welcome to participate in comic set for 5 years, because the 4 weeks you'll be there. Most of you have already been to our center, but we would love to have either you for a meal or just to come for a couple days, whatever you want. We love having guests, and we love when our community up and roll with us. So, yeah.
Do you have to get up early?
You can. You can.
Being honest.
Besides that, we have a retreat in October that I believe is still being scheduled. Is that correct?
Probably going to be the second half of October. We're doing, it's likely a combination of meditation and inspirational practices. So there'll be more additional practices. But exactly so.
And that's it. There's nothing else. We will be chanting 10 minutes from right now. So at 7:15.
Nice.
Thanks for coming in.
To clarify, are you guys be able to choose further to which extent you follow the schedule by understanding? Yeah.
This is true.
We will go now.
Let's stick to that because
Let's talk about
But you still have more of your coffee too. So I can help you wake up.
Huh?
You still have more of your coffee, so that will help you.
Good.
Thank you so much for that, by the way. That's hopefully I'll complete through with more things.
That's very good.
Yeah, I'm doing fun.
I had a few of those. We won't have them.